A yet-to-be-released rookie card of Cooper Flagg was hit in a box of Topps Chrome Football by a breaker in the last couple of days. This is crazy, and yes, you heard me say that correctly. A basketball player's rookie card was hit in a box of Topps Chrome Football. Utterly ridiculous. Makes you seriously question the QC of some of these companies out there. And whilst, yes, we've seen this happen in the past, Topps have been talking a lot in the recent months and years about all the investment they've made to improve their QC. So the fact that something like this has happened is pretty laughable and ridiculous. Now, this was brought to my attention by some people on Instagram. They shared some stories, and you can see the breaker over here that goes by the name of Breakwave Sports Cards. Essentially, they were opening or busting some breaks of Topps Chrome Football, and a Cooper Flagg popped out. I'll play the video for you guys now, then I'll share my thoughts in a second.
What the f?
What?
Hold on, what the f is that? No way that just happened.
What?
Oh, we're going viral, baby. Who had the Cooper Flagg spot? Are you kidding me? No way. No way that just happened. Bowman Chrome rookie Cooper Flagg.
That's nuts. What?
Take it? Wait, this isn't even out yet.
Damn.
This product's not even out yet. This might be the first
What?
Cooper Flagg Bowman Chrome pull.
So like the boys correctly point out, Bowman Chrome Basketball is not even out yet. I believe it drops in April. If I go back to the launch page here on Topps' website, it says, yeah, Hoppy and Value boxes are available via EQL on April 22nd, with Megas available on May 7th. So this release hasn't even happened yet. And obviously they use the same printing facility for all their cards. So, naturally you're going to see a mistake like this happen. We've seen that happen in the past. There's some examples that I've talked about on the channel with Panini and Topps in the last couple of years where the same thing has sort of happened. But the fact that it's happening with, what is a much anticipated return of Topps Chrome, football, and now you've got Bowman Chrome returning for basketball, you would think that, this, excitement and the hoorah, I guess, of it coming back would mean that you're going to be extra careful with these sort of releases. And the fact that you've had one of these cards make its way into this product is ridiculous and pretty laughable. You guys can't see the comment section over here. Some people think this was faked. If I go back and play the opening, the guy moves it pretty quickly when he opens a pack, but it's not fake. This is pretty genuine. And even if it was fake, like we just correctly pointed out, this Cooper Flagg is not even released yet, right? So how would they get a card that's not even been released yet? The other thing to point out, as was correctly pointed out by people in the comments, is that it's not just a base card either. This is the Mojo Parallel, I believe is what it's referred to as. I could be wrong on that. So it's not a cheapy card or a random card that you're going to see hundreds, if not tens of thousands of. This is going to sell for a decent chunk of money, and it makes you question, okay, well, if this one has made its way into it, what else has made its way into these packs? Have any of these one-of-ones from this yet-to-be-released product made their way into it? Have any other rookies made their way into it? So I think we need to keep our eyes open on the next few days to see what else comes to light, because obviously this has only just been released. But really, interesting. When you go hand in hand with the videos that I've spoken about in the last week or so, I'll put some things on screen now because I forgot to have the tab open. You'll see that we talked about a bunch of duplicate, one-of-one first cards out of Topps flagship basketball. There's recently been a duplicate Wembanyama Superfractor, or so it appears to be. And, these are not one-offs now. This is like consistently Topps making mistakes now. And, like I said, or at least I think I did, they've made a big song and dance about investment and improving QC and all that kind of stuff. Yet we're still seeing stuff like this happen. I think, they need to seriously have a look at themselves about ways they can, make sure this sort of stuff doesn't happen again. I think this, in the grand scheme of things, is not that big of a problem. Like, obviously, yes, you've put a card into a product that shouldn't have, but it's, not as bad of an issue as those duplicates that I've just alluded to. I would only consider this to be a similar level of issue if, they're not replacing the cards in the actual release of that product, because that means the Bowman Chrome checklist is now incomplete. They've got a ratio of hits that are meant to be there, and they're now no longer being in that pack if they're not replacing them, which means they're selling things to customers that are not accurate, right? So obviously, if these things got unreplaced, we've got a big bloody problem here. But if they're going to replace it, I think it's okay. Yes, it's annoying, and yes, they've now maybe printed an additional, merger refractor than what the population is meant to be, but I don't think that's going to hurt anyone long term. It would be very different if it was one-of-ones. But yeah, we need to see some action on this, right? This is not good enough. We need to see them come out and make a bit of a statement on some of the things that have gone wrong. Now, like I said, I talked about some of those duplicate one-of-ones first cards in some recent videos. I've chased Topps for a response. They've told me they're still investigating. They can't give any comments until the investigation is complete, but they would come back to me as soon as they have something tangible and they actually know what happened and what went wrong. You know, they've given me decent responses in the past, but let's sort of see what they come to light with, because I think this issue is a big one. I think it's incredibly disappointing that no one's really talked about it yet. Like we sort of said in my last video, that Nikola Jokic card, you've had one sell on eBay for $9,200 USD, and there's a duplicate out there. So the fact that you've got collectors out there actively spending money, and we're still seeing these companies stay silent despite enough information being out there to at least comment on, I think is pretty poor form. You know, maybe I'm wrong for saying that, but I would at least expect them to say something. And whilst they might not have all the information yet, they might not know if these things are legitimate, maybe one of those cards are fake, you know, I would still like them to say something and say, hey, collectors, be aware that there's potentially some fakes are out there. We are still investigating. Just maybe do your due diligence. And obviously, if they go ahead and say something like that, that Nikola Jokic may have sold for less, right? So maybe they're going to, you know, incorrectly screw over that customer, because maybe the other Nikola Jokic that's floating around is the fake one, and that one was legitimate, and now they've made people uncomfortable and scared to go ahead and pay for it. You know, that's a fair assessment, a fair comment to make, but I still feel like the better thing to do in that, you know, situation is to pick the lesser of the two evils, and the lesser of the two evils is to say, hey, we're investigating, don't spend your money, be a bit careful, or spend your money if you want to, but just be aware that these kinds of concerns are happening, because I think it's better to have people potentially underpay on something, or maybe somebody not make as much money, versus somebody going ahead and paying a shitload more, and then it turns out these things are duplicate, not as scarce as what they should be, and then you know, unaware, so they keep going ahead and spending money. That sentence I don't think made a whole lot of sense, but I think you guys will get where I'm coming from with that, or where I'm coming from. Like I said, I mentioned that because, you know, we're waiting for a response on Topps on that one, and let's see what they sort of come out and say about this, because, you know, the Topps Chrome Football has only been released in the last couple of days, right? The last 2 or 3 days. So, you know, maybe we're going to see more of these cards pop up in the next few days. So share your thoughts on this video in particular. Let me know if you remember what the historical issues were in the past. There were some instances with Leaf. There were some instances with Topps and Panini. I think in the past, we even had some Topps cards make their way into Panini packs or vice versa. That's because, you know, these cards are printed all at the same facility, which now Topps own. You know, that was part of the issue with the Panini antitrust lawsuit, that Topps own the printing facilities. So it makes sense that these kinds of issues are still continuing, considering it's the same people operating at these places and it's the same companies. But yeah, I can't quite recall. I definitely did videos on them in the past. I tried searching for them before this, but this is certainly not a new issue. It's just, you know, worth flagging for the reasons that I mentioned, right? You've had Fanatics come in, acquire Topps, say they're investing all this money, increasing the QC, increasing processes, making things better, yet this mistake still happens. You've had the return of Topps Chrome Football. It's meant to be this big song and dance. They're talking it up. It's meant to be this cool thing that's finally returning, yet this mistake has happened, right? They haven't put extra eyes on the process to make sure it doesn't happen on the return of this product. You've had, you know, the price points increase and increase and increase from Topps and Fanatics. You're seeing some boxes of Topps Chrome, I think, selling for like over $2,500 on the secondary market. So you have this additional expectation now from consumers to pay more, yet you're still making these basic fundamental errors. Like that's not okay. These things should be getting better. And some people will turn around and say, hey, it's just a hobby. It's just trading cards. Mistakes are going to happen. Get over it. But it's not an okay answer to give that anymore, right? Because there is so much more money being invested from a consumer perspective that you expect a better service. Go look at companies external to trading cards, right? Go look at the amount of money being spent on, you know, other collectibles like comics and coins and watches and all this other stuff, right? You're getting much better experiences on the top end of town when you're participating in those, right? Because you're paying all this money, right? You're getting a better customer service. Sports cards haven't caught up on that gap just yet. I've said it time and time again. In the past, you sort of had customer service and risk appetite down here, and the amount of money you were spending as a customer was essentially on par for that, right? The amount of money you were spending, you're getting the same kind of love and experience back from these companies. But now what they've done is they've increased the price of what it is you're paying, yet they haven't uplifted the customer experience or the risk appetite to match now what you're paying. And you're seeing that hand in hand with situations like those duplicate one-of-ones we just touched on, like this issue over here. You know, if they're not replacing this card in that unreleased product, it is crazy to me. And, you know, if this has happened, I think it's probably happened more. So, you know, maybe I'm going to annoy a few people, in particular out at Topps, for talking about yet another issue. But guys, get your shit together. I'm just trying to help the hobby and make people more aware and more educated. I'm not a bad guy. So, you know, it is what it is. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this one down below, and I'll chat to you in the next one. Cheers.